been transported to local hospitals at this time, including one who has been deceased. Officers who were trained immediately responded to the area. One was a DNR officer, and then one was a Grand Blanc Township officer, where they met the suspect and they engaged in gunfire with that particular individual, neutralizing that suspect, and that suspect is no longer with us. As I said, it is a 40-year-old male from Burton. During all this incident as well, there was a fire that occurred, and we believe that was deliberately set by the suspect. We do believe that we will find additional victims once we have that scene secure. That fire was just extinguished by the Grand Blanc Township Fire Department within the past hour. So where we go from here is we have investigators. We're going to do search warrants on the suspect's residence. We're going to find out if there was a motive. We're going to go through cell phone records, things like that. We had FBI, you know, they're devoting 100 agents to this area because, as you can imagine, there's a lot of witnesses that were within the church, and that is a lot of witness information, statements that we have to obtain. So I'd like to thank all the agencies who responded, the City of Grand Blanc, Genesee County, Oakland County Sheriff's Office, Flint Township Police Department, the DNR, the State Police, and the ATF. I will provide additional information for you at 5 p.m., but I am willing to take any questions that you have that I could possibly answer right now.
Chief, can you talk about the kind of the progress of events? Did the suspect set the fire, then get back inside of his vehicle and then ram the front door, or did it all happen at the same time?
So from what I understand, and again, this is just a preliminary investigation right now, from what I have been briefed on, is that he rammed the vehicle through the front door, exited, then started firing shots. We are still trying to determine exactly when and where that fire ended up coming from and how it got started. So we believe it was deliberately set, though, by the suspect.
Were they in an active service when this happened?
Yes, the service was active. There was hundreds of people within the church.
Are you sure it's only one suspect at this point, or is it possible other people helped setting the fire? What happened?
Yes, it is one suspect that we know of at this point. We do not believe that there's a threat to the public. We believe that we have the guy who did this. Sir.
Could you comment on the severity of the injuries?
We have a couple in critical condition. Like I said, one is deceased. The rest of them are in stable condition.
So a couple, maybe three or two, I'm sorry?
One deceased. The suspect is deceased as well. And then multiple victims are in critical condition. We do believe that we will find some additional victims once we find the area where the fire was.
Any word on the weapon yet?
An assault rifle.
So, as far as ammunition, did he have a lot of ammunition?
That I don't know of yet, and I could get you later. Yeah.
Hi, Bill.
Hey.
Was the suspect known to authorities, and did he have any connection to anyone who was in that church?
Right now, we don't have any of that information, but I'm confident that our investigators, along with the FBI, we're going to end up uncovering all that information and provide that at a later time for you.
Chief, to clarify, you said there may be additional victims like inside the church? Or?
Yeah. Yet is because it was a large fire, and we do believe that there was people up there that were near that fire and they were unable to get out of the church. So we do believe that we will find additional victims once we're able to search that, once there's no signs of a fire reigniting.
So do you believe that the victims that are still there, they succumbed to fire injuries or gunshots, or you're not sure?
That I'm not sure, but I could provide all that information hopefully at 5 p.m.
The shots were fired.
Shots were fired, yes.
And he had no idea how many, though, at this point?
No idea how many at this time. Yeah.
Can you
Sir.
describe the church? Is there like a worship area and then like a gathering space or something like that? I mean, can you...
That I have not been in, so I can't tell you the layout.
Chief, can you kind of describe the process of how things change for tactical response when there's an active fire? Every training I've seen, it's always been a building that has not been on fire. So how do you then deal with an active shooter when you have that situation happening as well?
Well, we are here at Grand Blanc Township, and there's a lot of agencies within the state of Michigan. We are specifically trained to go right to the threat in an active shooter situation. And I'm proud of my guys and the DNR who responded to this scene, who immediately took that suspect out, so there was no additional victims. So it was a great job by our staff. Okay.
So it was a law enforcement officer that neutralized the suspect?
Yes, there was 2 law enforcement officers involved. I will be back here at 5 p.m. to give you additional information and hopefully answer some of the questions that you guys went over here today. So, okay. Supervisor Bennett.
Hello, Scott Bennett, Grand Blanc Township Supervisor. Scott, S-C-O-T-T, Bennett, B-E-N-N-E-T-T. First, let me say we are heartbroken. This kind of violence doesn't happen in our community, and we are heartbroken that it came to Grand Blanc Township. And we're going to do everything we can to support the families, the victims, and our community getting through this situation. And it's something that no community ever wants to have. And we're going to do our best to do everything we can. We appreciate the outpouring of support from our elected leaders from both national and state in offering their assistance, and we probably will take them up on their offers. So we appreciate that very much, and we appreciate the community reaching out to us also. So the details are yet to come, as Chief Rennie has said, and we'll wait for a little bit later today when we have the rest of the situation assessed. But it may take a little while to do that. But thank you for all the support, and I'm sure that the families and the victims are going to need that. It's a tragedy that nobody wants to encounter. Thank you.
Chief, before you step out, can you go over the process for family members, where you want them to go, who they should call to get more information or identification?
Yeah, so those family members, they are in a secure area right now. Taken over to Trillium, so that's where the FBI will interview them and then release them from there. So
I mean, in terms of anybody who might be at home who is not there, who wants to check in to see if their loved one is okay, is there a number or place that you want them to go?
yes, you could call the Grand Blanc Township Police Department, 810-42. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
All right, you were just listening into a news conference. We heard from the police chief, Bill Rennie, and the supervisor there, Scott Bennett, both talking about the heartbreak that community is facing after 10 people were shot, according to the police chief, including one person that has died. The suspect, they said, has also been killed. The fire that they talked about starting at the church is believed to have been from a 40-year-old male from Burton, Michigan. Again, the suspect was killed. Police saying there is no threat to the community, but they say that this fire is believed to have been started by that individual who also fired shots inside that Latter-day Saints church this morning. A motive is unclear. The police talked about wanting to get cell phone records to understand what perhaps was the motivation for somebody to go shoot up a church this morning in Michigan there. Grand Blanc, Michigan. Police describing that he rammed his vehicle through the front door, then exited and started firing shots. They said, again, one suspect is believed to be involved at this time. They don't believe any other people were involved. You can see community members right there on your screen holding each other, smoke billowing from that church where the fire was started. There were multiple victims that the police chief said are in critical condition. At first, when questioned about it, he said a couple in critical condition, but then said there were multiple victims in critical condition. They did recover an assault rifle. They do not know if the suspect was connected to this church in any way. Officials have been speaking out about this. Again, the supervisor there for Grand Blanc, Scott Bennett, saying, first, we are heartbroken, said this kind of violence does not happen in our community. Governor Gretchen Whitmer posted a written statement on social media saying, my heart is breaking for the Grand Blanc community. Violence anywhere, especially in a place of worship, is unacceptable. Quote, I am grateful to the first responders who took action. We will continue to monitor the situation. The police chief, as in many situations like this, acknowledging that they still have a lot of information to comb through, but hoping to have a news conference later this evening at 5 p.m. to hopefully bring the community and the media up to speed on what happened, what was the motivation, and hopefully an update on those victims. Again, just to recount, we're hearing 10 people were victims of gunshots, including one person that has died. The suspect has been killed. I want to bring in Anna Schechter. She joins us by phone. She's the senior coordinating producer for CBS News Crime and Public Safety Unit. Anna, I know you've been listening in to the news conference, too. A lot of folks had questions. But as in cases like this, we're only a couple of hours removed from when this happened, so a lot still has to be determined. But what did you make of what the police chief was saying in reference to not knowing if this person was somehow connected to this church?
It's a great point, because that is the big question, is why and motive. So I am hoping at 5 p.m. we're going to learn more. But the fact that multiple victims, 10 gunshot victims transported to local hospitals, I mean, this is a major event during a day of worship, a morning of worship. So we will probably find out that there was some connection between the suspect and this church, and we're just waiting to learn more details.
A number of officials have spoken out about this already. I don't know if you were listening there when we talked about the governor, Gretchen Whitmer, issuing statements. The FBI investigation director, Kash Patel, saying violence in a place of worship is cowardly and a criminal act. Our prayers are with the victims and their families during this terrible tragedy. And then U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi also mentioning that such violence, she says, at a place of worship is heartbreaking and chilling, and asking people to join in with prayers. As far as you can tell, Anna, this is a community back in June, I'm sure you recall, in Wayne, Michigan, that experienced a similar situation, but in that case, one person was shot. The alleged gunman was killed. Talk to us about the impact that something like this has on a community, especially to hear from the supervisor opening up, saying, we are heartbroken. This kind of violence doesn't happen in our community.
Well, it's notable that just 3 months ago this happened, as you mentioned, in Wayne. Now, in that particular instance, it was a domestic violence dispute, and we only learned that later, that the suspect was actually targeting a woman, and it was a domestic violence, essentially, like the worst case scenario, an awful thing that occurred in a very tight-knit community. So that trauma is still being experienced by that community. It's about an hour's drive south of where this has just occurred at this Church of Latter-day Saints. So just a really tough few months for this area, and really shocking just the way that this played out. A vehicle rammed into a church during church services. More than 100 people were there worshiping. Then opened fire. Just a horrific morning there. And multiple agencies, as you mentioned, ATF is on the scene, the local FBI, Michigan State Police, the local police, have been the lead, and we'll see if that changes if the FBI decides to take over. But at this point, it appears that local and state police are leading this investigation.
And according to the website, the church services start at about 10 o'clock. We understand that today the Worldwide Church of Latter-day Saints was grieving the death of their prophet, Russell M. Nelson. Now, we are not saying this is linked in any way, but here you have people that were mourning a leader in that church who was over 100 years old. Something like this happening. And also worth mentioning, the police chief saying, we believe we will find additional victims as we continue our investigation, because they believe people were not able to quite get out of that church safely because of that fire. So when you hear that the suspect set fire to the church, how does that impact the response to a shooting like this?
This is such a complex situation for law enforcement to address. Not only you had a shooter, but the fire, it's just sort of everything that could possibly be challenging happened in a very short period of time. We heard that a couple of local police officers were able to get there. They neutralized the suspect, but then essentially the entire building was ablaze. So we very well might hear that there are other injuries from smoke inhalation, burns, that sort of thing. We know at this time 10 gunshot victims, but we don't know at this time how many victims might have been impacted by the fire.
Gunshot victims, one person deceased, and possibly others that the police chief says they have not even found yet that could be inside that church. And it is unclear if they died because of gunshot wounds or because of the fire. We will, of course, continue to keep you updated. Anna Schechter, thank you so much for joining us. Stay with CBS News as we continue to follow this developing story. This is a special report. I'm Jerika Duncan here in New York. Thank you.
What happens when reporters take you inside the story?
I've been asking for over a year and a half for access into this place, and this is